Welcome back to the PM Podcast. I'm Aaron. This is Braxton.
Hey.
And today we're going to be talking about the transgender community. There is going to be a little bit weird editing thing going on because this turned into like a 2-hour podcast.
God damn it.
So we're going to cut it a little bit, about halfway through, because the topic shifted quite a bit. We went from transgender to religion. So we're going to do part 1 this week, and then we're going to do part 2 next week that's tied on together. So make sure you stick around for that. But it's going to be a blast. So without further ado, enjoy, guys. Welcome back to PM Podcast. I'm Aaron. This is Braxton.
Hey.
And today we are talking about a more sensitive subject. So if you are easily offended, if you do not like hearing things that you do not believe in, don't watch this episode. Click off right now. We're going to be talking about transgender community, and we are going to be a little bit naive because we don't know about the whole situation, and so we're going to talk on it as best as we can.
I think
give our
the best way to say it is a discussion.
We're going to have a discussion. And it's not, there's nothing serious about it.
Right.
Some people have certain beliefs that do not line up with the current political and societal stance. So if you get offended easily about this kind of stuff and these kind of issues, click off right now.
And we'll see you next week.
I'm going to give you 10 seconds right now to click away.
But during that time, hit the like and subscribe button.
Always plugging. I love it.
Love us anyways, guys. Anyway.
All right, it's been 10 seconds, guys. For those of you that are still here listening, welcome back. So today,
how you doing?
The reason we're having this conversation is because I don't know who brought it up first.
I think I did. I think I was just kind of curious.
No. We were talking about threesomes. Yeah, we were talking about threesomes and how, there's a okay, I'll tell you guys, it doesn't matter. There is a potential for the Potty Mouth Show and PM Media to be moving to Los Angeles. We don't know, like I said, I'm saying that preemptively. I don't know if it's going to happen, but it is a thought. So the story was, if we moved to Los Angeles, we'd have a really small room and we'd be living in the studio, basically. And so I told him the one rule was you can go to your room and do whatever you want. If you want to have a threesome, I don't care. Just don't do it on the studio. And he was like, well, I'll just bring a girl home. I'll just bring him home and be like, hey, you want to have sex on a studio? Let's plop in. And I was like, God dang it. And
it's perfect, though. It's perfect.
It was perfect. And so that kind of led into sex. And then Blake said something about how make sure that they're not. I know you said you have to be careful because you're straight and you don't want to take home someone that's not straight that looks
right,
or you don't want to take home a girl that looks like a guy that looks like a girl.
Yes,
but that is a guy.
And then come to find out later that night that it was a guy.
Right.
Like what is that?
But then we're getting into a slippery slope,
right,
with gender pronouns and what they identify as. And all of that, and
but if you had
he's waiting. Hold on. So I know you're ready. You're ready to.
He's
jump.
ready to shoot off, dude.
He is ready to jump right in.
Yeah.
So like I said, here before we go into this, here's the conversation. All of us here, I'm sure we're all gonna play devil's avocado. So we've just got to have this conversation out of a place of love. No one actually get mad and walk off. Okay.
Absolutely.
Cool.
Absolutely.
I don't know. I know that before we had this conversation, Blake was like, so I was like, okay, let's ease into this one.
Sure.
So, what was your question, Blake? Go for it.
But if you had, let's say, for instance, you had sex with someone who you thought was a woman, turned out to be a guy, would that be considered a threesome?
Oh, wait, real quick. One more preface. We know 100% we're not going to use the correct gender pronouns.
I don't care.
So we're just going to do this the best we can to explain it how we understand it.
Absolutely.
You're more than welcome to comment and correct us if you want, but we're just doing it the best way we can explain to you through listening to it, because it's kind of hard to explain it. Because then we'd be in like, it would have to if we're going to use correct gender pronouns, it would have to be something along the lines of, well, what if you'd had sex with the she her, and it turns out they identified as she her, but were biologically a he him, and we're not doing that shit. So we're just going to explain it the best way we know how. If you hate us, fuck off. All right, so now go ahead.
Okay, again, if you brought home a chick,
Yeah.
and ended up being a guy, would that be considered a threesome?
No.
Hold on. Is there 2 people there? Or 3 people there?
No, but if they... Sorry, I'm trying to make sure of this. If they don't consider themselves either...
They do.
Well, if he's going to take someone home, they're probably identifying as something.
What if they're a
female.
guy, they dress up as a girl all the time?
Well, if he gets them home and they're going to have sex and he's not gay, then...
That's the problem. Right. I think with that community, right? I think that they're not there to trick people, right?
Yeah,
like, I don't think
they're tell you.
I don't think there's a girl out there that's like a transsexual woman that's waiting out there for me to take me home just to like say, haha, gotcha. You know, so I'm not saying that. And I would also like to believe that they're very, the trans community is very open, obviously, about a lot of things. So like
Everyone
that would
that
be
I've
a
talked to-
conversation.
I would presume so.
Everyone I've talked to that's trans has been very open about questions. As long as you come out of it as long as you come at it from a place of respect,
Absolutely.
they'll answer any question you have. Everyone that I've talked to, anyway.
Absolutely. So, to answer your question, Blake, I guess it would be, I don't think that if that was the case where I did come home with a where I thought it was a woman and then they've done changes to their body to like manipulate my thought to think that otherwise, right? That no, this is definitely a guy, or no, this is definitely a girl. Like I don't think that would be the case, and if it is, I would think that's where I come off wrong. Like, hey, no, like I don't care that you want to be a woman. I don't care if you want to be a guy. It's your decision at the end of the day.
I think Blake's coming at it from a biological standpoint. You take this
Absolutely.
You take this girl home, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you get back to your place, and you start undressing and kissing, and then you feel her dick.
And then I'm like, whoa, that's bigger than me.
But like, what do you do in that situation? You've been making out, you've been groping and feeling, and then you feel her dick.
I mean, it sounds like he would first say, well, I'm impressed, for one.
Be like,
that
whoa.
you have a bigger one than me.
Goddamn.
But what would you do, on all seriousness?
If that was the case, I would call it out for what it is. Be like, whoa.
Why didn't you say something beforehand?
Whoa, yeah, exactly. Why didn't you say anything? Like, sure, like, I respect you,
Sure.
right, for your person and your decisions, but you're putting that on me, and that's not fair, I don't think.
Now, what would you do if you gotten her back, and you had sex, and then she told you afterwards that she was trans, but she had a vagina, she had boobs, like she'd had all the surgeries that were necessary to be transgender, to actually be a different sex. Has gone through all the treatments and everything, and is legitimately, even biologically, a female at this point.
Right.
How would you feel?
So,
because it's indistinguishable, her voice and everything.
I would say again, I think I respect you, right? I respect your person and your decisions, but at the same time, that's something where you're almost tricking me in the way that you know that that's not something that everybody can handle. You know that I mean, at that point, I would think that, you know, hey, this is a straight male. I probably shouldn't be doing this to him unless he knows, and then that's where it's different. Like, hey, well,
or do it and never say anything ever.
Fair. If she never said anything and I come to find out 2 years later, I'd be like, well, all right, that was interesting, I guess, but it wouldn't drastically like change my life, I guess, in any way. Like, so I mean, if we did have sex and it was come to find out like a week later, it's like, hey, I was born a man. Can we continue this? I'd be like, probably.
We'll have to see how it goes.
I would have to say, well, we're not going to continue this because that's just like that's a whole nother ball game, I guess.
Yeah.
I would think so. But that's something that I don't want to go. I don't want to say deal
So
with.
you
but
wouldn't.
I don't want to go.
You
through
wouldn't
that.
willingly engage with sexually
Transsexuals? No.
with transsexuals.
No. Like, I don't have a problem being in the same room, conversation, XYZ. I mean, I could probably, I wouldn't be surprised if I ended up having feelings for someone that's transsexual. Like, hey, you're a very beautiful person, right? And that's what I see. I see people for more who they are.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why, in my previous relationships, I fall in love with the person more than the looks.
So I'm gonna play devil's avocado. So if you can fall in love with the person and their looks, and they biologically, as the time you know them, are female, you couldn't look past the fact that they were born a male. You couldn't, or could?
I couldn't.
You couldn't.
Yeah. If so, what you're saying is if born a male has
had the surgeries and everything to become a female, like indistinguishable from another.
I wouldn't be able to be in a relationship with that person, and that
Even if they were upfront with you.
absolutely
Oh.
right. Well, maybe a friendship. Like,
I was
hey,
gonna say you can still
I
love
understand.
them,
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying.
But
like,
not
there's a difference
sexually,
between
not
loving them and
intimately.
loving
Right.
them.
right.
Not
exactly.
intimately.
And that's where it's like, hey, I can love you, and like we've been on a certain level.
Why not?
I think for me personally, it's more reproduction, right? Like, I want to have kids someday. I want to, like, sure, there's adoption, but that's excuses for people that can't do it. I'll come up with that excuse, or it's not an excuse, right? I've had family members that can't or have struggled, right?
Yeah.
It's not an excuse. That's a poor choice of words, but I'll cross that bridge when I can get to it. And right now, like, I want to be able to have kids someday, my own kids, and until that doesn't happen, and I know it won't happen, then maybe adoption. And then if that's not a thing where I can do that, then you know what? Then the sky's the limit, right? Then I'll just focus on myself and being happy with someone else. It doesn't matter who they are.
And seeing where I differ is like, if I had an emotional connection with someone, like, and they like 2 years later told me that they were trans, like they were born a boy, I wouldn't. If I had no idea, like no inkling, no suspicion whatsoever, and I could not tell, I wouldn't care. Because it's just like, you are who you are now. I didn't know you back then, I don't care.
What about kids? That was my thing. Is like, I want kids. You can't have kids.
For me, there's other ways.
There is.
If I love you, like if we have a relationship together, and we have like it's like okay, for instance, if my wife were to tell me that she's trans tomorrow, we've been together for 5 years, I'm not gonna throw that down the trash. You know what I mean? Like that's my wife, and so I have a greater connection with her than anyone. If she told me she was trans and born a boy, I'd just be like, oh, okay. I wish you would have told me sooner. I would like to understand why you couldn't feel like you can come to me sooner. But I'm glad that you're telling me now. And
5 years later.
Yeah, like I'm glad you're telling me now, and we'd have to have conversations about it. Like,
Yeah.
why didn't you feel like you couldn't? Why did you feel like you couldn't tell me? Were you scared that I was going to leave if you did? Like, where's your headspace at? Why are you telling me now? And then, what's the reason you're telling me now? Like, why are you telling me now? What came up? What happened?
Yeah.
To where you're at right now to tell me. And as long as those answers weren't from a selfish place, as long as they were like more of just like, it took me a long time to come to terms with my own reality, and I didn't want to throw that on you and try to ruin something special that we had here, which is kind of a bullshit answer, but at the same time, I respect it because everybody's different. Everybody has their own timing for everything. Because even in our marriage now, we both deal with shit differently, and it takes us longer sometimes. So I just respect it, honestly. But we've been talking a lot. I want to ask Blake.
Yeah, Blake.
So Blake, well, I'll ask you a few questions.
I've had a couple different perspectives.
Oh,
right?
geez.
I guess.
I'm just gonna say for everyone listening, Blake is strongly opposed to the idea of what we're talking about. So
100%.
So, Where do you want to start?
So I think the start with right. We kind of put you kind of mentioned earlier, like, what if Betsy told you, like, hey, this is your best friend.
But you're newly married, so
Right.
let's say 5 years down the road.
No, let's say
3.
Why not even
Now?
right after the? I mean, you don't marry someone unless you're like
Okay,
committed.
so let's say right now.
Right.
Let's just say right now,
Yeah.
and then let's do it 2 years down the road.
Well, for one, we would have a very strong conversation.
But it'd be tough.
I would never be able to look at her the same
Yeah.
Him.
ever,
Her.
or
It's her.
it.
Him.
Her at this
Okay.
point. If
I
she-
will call it that. I
If
have
she
no
if
problem
she
with
is Betsy, if Betsy is biologically Betsy, she is she
She is
to everybody at
yeah,
this point.
absolutely. Well,
yeah.
that's what I was saying. That was
Yeah,
anyways,
yeah. So you could say she,
that. No, if she was born male,
but is biologically
then
a
is-
female.
she is a male.
right.
Whatever she's born as
Right.
is what she actually is.
Yeah, but now you can change that shit. That's my argument.
Yeah, then you're playing God at that point. You are playing God. God made you this way for a reason.
Mm.
You tampering with all of that,
Mhm.
okay, and I know I'm going to be pissing some of you guys off. I don't care. Okay, like that,
Yeah.
we warned you guys. Okay, let's just be honest.
The only ones that want
He's
to
like,
listen are here
he's like,
now,
we
right?
fucking told you.
It's like, let's be
Deal with
honest.
it.
I don't care if you guys hate me or not. It's like, I'm being brutally honest with you guys. Okay, it's like God made you a certain way for a reason.
Mhm.
If you're born with certain body parts, okay, then that's what you are.
Yeah.
I don't care if you feel a different way or whatnot. It's like you were born the way you're born. If there's a difference between there's a difference between me being attracted to a male
Okay.
and me wanting to be a female. There's
What's
a
the-
huge difference to
Okay.
me.
Okay.
Okay, in the sense of like. Now, granted, I still don't.
Hold on, you're jumping around a lot. You're jumping around a lot. Let me.
Okay,
So,
I would disagree with it completely if
Right.
Betsy were to tell me that.
would you leave Betsy right now?
It would be extremely hard for me to even consider staying with her.
Absolutely.
100%.
Sure.
Okay. So now the other point that you brought up, you said that being born and liking a man or whatever and wanting to be a female are different things.
Correct.
So do you believe you can be born gay?
In all honesty, if you want me to be brutally honest,
I do. I do. I want to
Okay.
know because
Yeah.
we're
I'd
going
be
here.
curious.
This
'Cause
is
I think
And again,
I think I
this is-
know.
this
Right.
is
I
gonna-
have my opinion, I guess.
I
yeah.
do too.
But her-
And well, my opinion is going to be
Well,
a lot different than your guys'. I can already
maybe.
tell.
Maybe who knows?
Maybe. Yeah.
So, and people who are after this are probably going to be like, "Thank God Blake's going to be gone." All right.
That's not true.
Listen, I think it's just you're coming from a conservative standpoint because you are more conservative. I feel like
Depends.
I feel like I'm progressive. I feel like you're a little more progressive in certain areas.
So with that being
We'll
said,
see. We'll see.
when it
Let's
comes to being quote unquote gay, right?
Mhm.
You like the same sex,
You are sexually attracted to the same sex.
correct?
Yes.
Male liking male, female liking female.
Yep.
I consider that confused. And why do I say that? The reason I say that is because 100% I believe it's because the devil's tricked you and made you believe that you actually like the same sex instead of what God has intended for all of us, and that's why he created Adam and Eve. Okay, now I know you guys are going to have your own opinions on that, but
Okay.
you know, it's like, and now granted, do I know that much about the Bible? No, I don't. Okay, and I'm being honest.
Mhm.
But to me, I disagree 100% when it comes to males liking males, females liking females. To me, that's okay. You've had some things, traumas in your past. You've had some wounds opened up that have never been hemmed, and you see the same sex coming to you, and you're able to relate to them.
Mm-hmm.
So you automatically think, well, since I relate to him, or if you're her, I relate to her, I must be attracted to them.
So if you have these kids that didn't really have any traumas in their life, but their parents always knew that they were a little bit different, and their parents never pushed them in any certain way. They just knew that they were different, and then they grew up, and the kid, you've seen the videos. The kid comes out as gay, and the mom or dad is like, "I always knew. It's okay. Come here." Like, and they came from good families. Like,
Okay. No, and I've had a few friends that way.
Same.
However, with that, even though the parents didn't feel like they were pushing them in certain way, whatever you're thinking, and it's human nature, whatever you're thinking, sooner or later, people are going to feel that same vibe. If I thought, let's say for instance, if I thought for the longest time you were gay,
Yeah.
sooner or later, some kind of reaction I'm going to have is going to trigger it, and you're going to know. Or the whole time, I'm gay. I don't have to say it. So if I have a kid, let's say I have a kid of my own, and I instantly think, and I'm keep telling myself, oh, he's gay. He's gay. I don't have to say anything. My actions throughout it all, even if it's a little subtle,
Sure.
that's going to persuade them a certain way. For instance, there was I'm not going to mention any names, nothing like that, okay? But
Probably best not to.
yeah, there's a girl, okay? And later on down the road, like people thought just because she was big into sports, okay? She was more of a tomboy, if you will.
Sure.
But from the age of 10 up to high school, people said, "Oh, you're gay. You're gay. You're gay." All the way up through that.
Yeah.
But the whole time she's like, "No, it's like I like men. I like men." But finally, it's almost like she snapped out of nowhere.
Or she felt comfortable telling other people that.
Right.
No, she was telling me before. She's like, "No, it's like I don't. It's like I don't like women."
Yeah, but
Why
she
would
could have
she-
been lying to you.
Well, yeah, why would she tell you?
We talked about everything.
Right.
Everything.
Well, not everything.
And that was the thing. I even told her before. It's like, because at that time,
Yeah.
I'm telling you, at that time, now my beliefs have changed over the years.
Sure, but you've also got not to interrupt you and diminish your point, but you also have to think of it from a reverse perspective. So let's say heterosexuality was the weird thing. Like, let's say that was the minority. So let's say like being gay was normal, like that. And I know it's kind of hard for you to wrap your head around that, but let's just say that it was like, let's say that being gay was the norm. That was what was normal for life.
Okay.
And then you were born and grew up, and you're like, oh man, I like girls. Like, what the fuck's wrong with me? And so it's one of those secrets that you'll never tell anybody, no matter even your closest friends, or like, think about that. Like, people that are gay don't even tell their freaking families.
Yeah.
Sure.
Like, I had a buddy of mine who was 16 and didn't come out until he was 21. And no one ever knew. Like, he acted straight. He got girlfriends to cover it up. Like, he didn't want anybody to know that he was gay. And then when he was 20 years old, he pulled me aside and we started talking. And he told me he was gay, and I was the first person he ever told. And he was like, "Please don't tell any fucking person. I don't know what I have to tell my family, but I don't know how to."
Sure.
Yep.
Like, it's one of those things where it's like. So, like, the fact that she told you that she liked guys or whatever, like, not to disrespect that relationship or you at all, but I think you're kind of underplaying how hard it is for someone to come out like that when it is, for such a long time, been such a taboo in society. Like, I mean, hell, fucking 10 years ago, you would get beat to hell. And still today in schools, if you come out as, well, in smaller schools, if you're in like an urban area now, it's better. But if you come out in smaller schools, they'll fucking curb stomp you. They don't care. And that's still today. So it's one of those things where I think it's very scary to feel a certain way and feel like you're going to be rejected for saying that. Because, like, she said she came out to you. Did she come out to you?
Yeah.
Eventually?
Yeah. Her and I talked about it.
Are you
Quite a
still
few-
friends?
Yeah.
Okay. So,
I'll love her no matter what.
right. And
I disagree
sure.
with everything she talked about, especially with some of the conversations that we've
Why
had,
is this
and I
so-
won't
it's
say
so-
anything. But let me...
Yeah, go ahead.
Before you
Finish.
get into that,
Yeah.
Oh, there's a
with
lot
your
for you, Blake.
with your scenario
Okay.
where
Oh, wait, which scenario? Where are we going back to?
where it's the norm, guys like
Oh,
guys,
yeah,
girls
yeah,
like
okay.
girls.
Yep.
How the heck would you ever be born? Ever?
No,
Right.
I mean, I'm taking
about that.
the scientific element behind
I
it.
agree
I'm
with
just,
that. I was like, and I get that. I was like, but you got to think about like if that was the case.
life finds a way, though. You ever seen The Giver?
What are you gonna do? Do a goat?
You ever
Like,
read? You
come
ever
on
you
now.
ever read the book called The Giver?
The Giver?
Mhm.
No.
Theoretically, it's possible. The Giver. Have you ever read it? How did you guys never read it? You guys went to school.
I don't read books.
Okay, so The Giver is a book based on a utopian society where everybody is set to certain family units, and they can't see colors. They're limited information, whatever, and there are a select group of people that are determined to reproduce. So it's like your job. You are selected as the reproducer, and
Nice.
yeah.
Very nice.
So
Make a
Well, it sucks
sexy
if
your
guy.
job is
Fair.
to what?
Make
That
a
would suck
sexy.
if you're gay,
Well, yeah,
or
but
you choose to be gay.
that's what I'm saying. So like in this society, in this scenario, it could be a utopian society where if gay was the norm, if being homosexual was the norm, then you'd have a set of reproductive people that were set to reproduce, or cloning. But I don't want to go there. So that was just a faulty scenario, and we're getting off on a different trail. But the whole point of it, the root of this conversation was, I guess, would you leave a relationship that you've been in for years, and they just decided to tell you that, like, because imagine it's already hard coming out as gay, and coming out to people and letting them know that you're a homosexual.
Yeah.
Imagine changing your whole freaking biology, essentially. Like when your blood's tested, they look at your DNA, they look at your chromosomes, you're a female. They can't tell anymore. Like when you were born a boy and you have the surgeries and you have all that stuff changing, they cannot tell anymore that you were born a boy.
Right.
Besides your birth certificate.
Correct, but like if they didn't have that information on you and you were unconscious, they took your blood to figure out who you were. They wouldn't be able to distinguish who you are. It would come back the only way they'd be able to find out is your dental records and your fingerprints, because then they could trace that back to your birth certificate. But the technology is so advanced now where you couldn't tell unless you have that information that's like tracked over the course of 20 or 30 years or whatever.
Fair.
Well,
That makes sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
well, to answer your question,
Oh yeah, would you throw away a relationship of yours?
absolutely.
It would
It
be
would
tough
be-
for me,
It
but
would be
I
it would
probably
be extremely
would.
tough. Extremely tough.
probably
especially,
would,
especially
right.
when you've had not only an intimate relationship
Right.
with them, but you've grown to have a extremely strong bond to where it gets to that point of marriage.
Yeah.
Now, granted, I don't believe in divorce when it comes down to it. Okay,
Right.
I truly don't. And this is a guy saying, I don't believe in divorce.
Right.
Right.
However, if your whole marriage, because to me,
Mhm.
if you're going to come out at that point and you're going to finally tell me something like that, first of all, if I haven't been able to figure that out after a while, I don't know. Now,
Well, I mean-
granted, some people, I'm sure they hide it very.
I'm
very
telling you,
well.
I've met people you can't fucking tell.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm
Like,
sure
you
I'm
cannot.
sure there. I'm sure there are some, but to me, that whole relationship was pretty much based on a lie, because you didn't have. It's like you didn't have the respect to tell me from the very beginning, because
Well, see,
Yeah.
that's what I was kind of saying
But-
earlier.
but
It's
hold
like,
on,
you don't have the
tell me.
respect to tell me,
Right.
Yeah, but one of my okay,
and I've opened up everything to you.
True.
I've done. I've never lied to you in that sense or anything of that nature. I've never hidden anything.
okay.
from
So what you just said right there, in that sense, have you ever lied to your wife
Have I lied to my wife?
ever
I've
about
never
anything?
lied. I've
She's
never
not
lied. I've fibbed to keep something from her.
What's a fib?
As in, let's say, for instance...
I don't want to hurt her feelings.
Right, of course. Everyone has little white lies.
It could be something like that. But a fib is something that's, for one, it's not going to hurt her, but two, it doesn't hurt anyone else. But number three is, most of the time, if I ever did fib, it was because it was a surprise.
Sure.
Fair.
I mean, everyone fibs, but
That's the fibs.
But I mean, everyone's lied to a significant other or a spouse or whatever. I mean, everyone's told
Have you?
a lot. Yeah.
Put you on the spotlight.
Yeah, absolutely.
Put Blake on the spotlight like that while his wife's watching.
He can
'cause
ask
she's
this,
a
he can ask the exact same
number one
questions. I
subscriber.
doubt she watches the show.
I've never lied. No.
So I mean, but I've lied.
I don't have a wife,
But
so
I
I lie all the time.
I stretch the truth, as in, like, trying to up myself.
Oh, this is really good.
I'm
This
just
is good dinner, honey.
I'm just I'm just saying, like, I feel like everyone at one point or another has lied, and the reason you lie is because you don't want to make the situation worse or hurt somebody. And so it's like, if you think that it's going to hurt somebody, but
Right.
you do, like, for a person that is trans, that is in a relationship, that the other person doesn't know that they were trans, like, unless that person is told, it's one of those things where I can imagine how hard it would be to ruin something, because, like, they have something so special and they
Right.
have this great bond. It's like, why should I say anything and fuck this up? He believes, or she or whoever believes, that I am what I am, because
Right.
deep down I believe what I am.
Right.
Because if you're trans, you don't go through the procedures if you have any doubt in your mind that you were what you're supposed to be.
Absolutely.
I get that you're on a different side of that, but so if you're born a boy, or a girl, whatever, and you grow up and you're 100%, even from like really young, and you're like, I'm not this gender. I'm not. Something's wrong.
Right.
And there's nobody that I've ever met that's trans that was ever like, oh, well, maybe I am. No, it's like, I am. And so, like, if you're born a boy and you had the transition and you were in this relationship and the person you were with could not tell at all, I would see where they wouldn't want to say something to not jeopardize. Because, like, why? Why ruin this thing that we have?
Because answers will come out eventually.
True.
Yeah.
But why ruin this thing that we have just because society says it's wrong, or society says it's weird, or people get weirded out by
Or
it,
religion says it's
You're
weird.
or religion says it's weird?
You're gonna ruin it because you never told them, and for that you've been lying to them the whole time.
Which is where I'm at, right? Hey, I would have never taken you home and asked you out on a second date if you would have told me.
Yeah, but why?
Right.
Is it because society says it's weird,
No.
or is it because religion says it's weird,
No.
or wrong, or like what? Where I'm trying to figure out, where is the defining thing? Like, why
Well,
wouldn't you?
me personally,
Yeah.
it's because I want to reproduce.
Right, for you, it's the kids.
I
you want kids.
I want kids, right? And I want to be able to. And that's maybe it's not looked at, but
Sure.
that's mine.
Okay, let me simplify it for you
Right.
then. Would you hook up with someone that was trans?
Willingly or not willingly?
Willingly,
Mm,
But you ask, like,
no.
like they say, hey, ask any questions you want. You ask, like, okay, what are you working with? What do you got?
How big is it?
And then,
It's all natural.
and then if they're like, no, I have all the parts that you're looking for. Like, I'm not.
I'm gonna have to say no, but I'm not saying that's guaranteed. Only because it's like I would consider myself open to the idea of it, but it's nothing that I'm gonna take serious. And at my current time in life, I don't waste my time with that, right? You know, I was a bartender.
You're not looking to hook up.
Right, man. Yeah, there's plenty of opportunities to do that while you're living in the city. But
Sure.
at right now in my time, it's like, you know, I need something a little bit more serious. And maybe that transsexual or trans person would be serious, but if I'm going to take something serious to that level, it's going to be like my future wife kind of thing.
But I think it's attitudes, or not attitudes. I think it's positions like that make trans people scared to come out and tell you.
Yes and no, but at the same time, that's just kind of what you got to deal with.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like, nothing to. So
You're choosing
I
to
wouldn't
deal
know.
with that.
Right.
Right.
And it's like, well, so it comes with certain, astigmatisms, right? Or is that the right word that I'm looking for? Comes that certain perspective, I guess, that people are like, hey, like, oh, they're gay, or like they don't understand. It's the unknown that people don't get. And like, so for example, my father, he would totally be against it, right?
Oh, yeah.
But I also think my father would love, like, if I brought a guy or a female that used to be a guy, if I brought them home, my dad would love them and hug them.
But that's the thing is, like, your dad wouldn't know anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Well, no, even if I told him, I
of
feel like
course.
my dad is a very loving person. He
Yeah.
hugs everybody, but like, and that's who I want to be like that. I always want to love it, and that's where I am, right? But at the same time, you got to be honest with everybody, and I think it's not fair for you to, like, I mean, even for me to, like, reversal, right? What if I walk up to a trans and I'm like, hey, I'm straight, deal with it. Well, now they have to take on the responsibility, like, well, this is something that I'm going to have to deal with now, right?
Yeah, but, okay,
or
so
I have to approach things in a certain way, right?
Right.
Like, hey, like, he's not gay, he's not trans, he's not, bisexual, whatever. So,
well, and here's the thing.
so what's the difference between them looking at it from that perspective and me looking at it from my perspective?
Because things have to change.
Well,
So, and what I mean by that is, like, we either have one of two things has to happen in order for this to be a more copacetic conversation with everybody.
sure.
You either need to be, either the transgender community and the LGBT community needs to be more open about questioning, and not as like if a random person walks up to you and asks questions, as long as they're being respectful, don't shun them away. I mean, I'm sure everybody I've met has been nice, but, like, I'm sure there's people out there that are kind of weird about it. Be nice, answer the questions, because they're probably just curious. They want to know because it's not normal for them.
I agree.
And so you have to be open to that kind of questioning, or we have to be more open to the questions. Like, if they want to talk to us about it, we need to be more open to that conversation and not so closed-minded. Like, that's one of those two things has to happen. We either have to start asking questions or be open to the conversation.
I agree.
And
I think
so,
that's what.
Yeah.
With this age of technology, right, we can get a lot of answers at our fingertips.
Right.
Right. So I think I agree. There's always good time for dialogue and conversations, right, which is what this is. But obviously, in nowadays media streams, a lot of it gets diluted with, news and other different types of opinions, right? So that's where it's like, at the end of the day, you're right. Yeah, as long as everybody's willing to open to have a conversation, but at the same time, I could see people being like, I shouldn't have to have a conversation with Blake about me being gay or not, or transsexual, or anything like that.
You shouldn't, but then we're in the place where it's wrong to assume now. So it's like, we can't assume that you're straight.
Right. So is it wrong for if someone comes up to me where I'm gay and they want to ask questions, or is it wrong for me to be like, I don't want to answer your questions?
So
who's in the wrong?
I think you're in the wrong if they're asking questions.
Okay.
If you're gay and they're asking questions to you about you being gay and how you
obviously a respectful manner.
Yeah,
right.
if you're being an ass, if you're being a dick, like, hey, why are you gay? No, that's fucking don't answer that. But if they're just asking questions to be curious,
yeah,
like, yes, most people that are straight are weird about it. They don't know how to ask questions. They don't know because they don't know it. So they're gonna be kind of offensive. But and as long as they're coming at it from a respectful place and genuinely just curious, if you're not answering that question, you're in the wrong. But vice versa, if you're, let's say you're gay and want to have a conversation with me about being gay, and I'm closed off to it and I don't want to hear it, then I'm in the wrong, because you have to be open to that. You have to be open to that conversation.
Yeah.
Whether you agree or not. Obviously, I think we all kind of disagree at certain points of this conversation, because to me, in my eyes,
I feel like we have a very broad.
We really do. I think
spectrum.
I'm very progressive. He's very conservative, and you're kind of in the middle.
Yeah.
You're just kind of like meh on the issue.
Yeah, for real though. I mean, that's me being honest though.
Yeah. So I appreciate the honesty. But so for me, like, I call it how I see it. So if you look, sound, smell, feel,
Quacks like a duck, looks like a duck.
it is a duck.
It's
It's a
a duck.
fucking duck.
It's a duck.
So
Blake.
if it's a boy or
it's
a
not
girl,
a goose. It's a goose. It's a
if
duck.
I'm looking at you and you look, quack, and sound like a fucking duck, you're a duck. I don't
Fair.
care. Like, you know what I
Absolutely.
mean? So
No,
it's like,
I agree with that.
for me, it's
perspective.
like,
Right.
I'm not gonna, if you were born a certain way, fuck it. I don't care. It is what it is. All right. So thank you guys for listening to this half of the podcast. If you guys like this episode, make sure to like and subscribe wherever you get your podcast, iTunes, Spotify, or watch it here on YouTube. If you're watching it here on YouTube, make sure to like this video so we can keep bringing you fun, silly, content like this. With that being said, we love y'all, and we will see you next time.